Big thanks to Napoleon Grills for sponsoring this episode.
One of my favorite fast foods to get is Greek gyros. However, I do not like the price that it comes, and in this area where I live, it takes at least 20 minutes to get to my house. I have to pay premium prices these days. Wow, I can make this at home for a fraction of the price and in a fraction of the time. And if you want to know what my trick is, then just stick to the end. This is a big slab of pork belly. It's around 5 kilograms. You can even see where the ribs used to be. As you can see, there no longer is a skin on this pork belly, and there's just a small layer of fat. And if you're looking for the right pork belly, you're looking for a lean pork belly. Too much fat will ruin your dish. And the good thing is you can get this straight off your butcher's. He will always have it on stock. It's going to be cheap. It's available everywhere because they need it for sausages. And of course your question is, how do I turn this into Greek gyros in less than 5 minutes? Let's go. I'm going to cut off around 1.5 kilograms of this pork belly, and that I'm going to slice up into strips. And if you're Dutch, this is what you love the most, especially with your stamppot. Of course, in itself, this is not a trick, but the biggest trick is what I'm not going to do. Normally, I would now season this pork belly, I would stick it onto a big rotisserie skewer, and of course, that looks great. But my trick is going to taste just as good, but it's going to save you a lot of time. For that, I'm going to slice it even finer until I end up with real tiny strips. And this is what you end up with. Beautiful little strips of pork belly, ready to be turned into delicious gyros. Flavor-wise, I'm going to start by chopping fine 4 red peppers. I'm going to chop them up until they're nice and fine. Then I'm going to chop fine some oregano. Of course, it's going to be only the leaves. And the same goes for thyme. I'm going to pick off the leaves and then chop them fine. I'm going to zest 2 lemons, and that's going to make this dish very light and flavorful. And that's how you create a fresh gyros spice mix, typical for Greek flavors. Just like Troy. Just like Troy. Troy was the city? I can't remember.
Technically, Troy isn't
Is it a person or the city? Isn't it Greece? Oh, they conquered Troy. Did they conquer Troy? I can't remember. It's yours! I'm gonna mix my ingredients in a bowl, starting with 100 milliliters of olive oil, 2 tablespoons of salt, a tablespoon of vinegar, 1 tablespoon of ground pepper, the zest of those 2 lemons, 2 tablespoons of the fresh oregano, 2 tablespoons of the fresh thyme, and 4 of those fine chopped red peppers. I'm also gonna add the juice of half a lemon. Then I'm gonna quickly mix this up and sprinkle it all over my pork belly. And with my hands, I'm rubbing it in, making sure I get that flavor on each and every piece of meat. Normally I would now marinate this for many hours, for at least 4 to 8 hours. But now I don't have to, because every little bit of that pork is getting hit with flavor. This is ready to be grilled. I'm going to be cooking on the Napoleon Prestige Pro 500. Now, I'm not going to use the whole thing, I'm just going to use the side burner. And the reason that I'm using the side burner is because I'm getting an extreme amount of heat, up to 900 degrees Fahrenheit, which is around 450 degrees right here in my pan. And that heat is going to make all the difference. Now, if you want to make this inside, just go ahead and do it. But in my case, I'm going to make the most out of what I have. I'm going to turn on the side burner. First, I'm going to release the gas, hold it for 5 seconds, then hit the ignition. I'm going to put on a pressed cast iron pan, and I'm going to let that come up to an extreme high temperature. And once it's hot, I'm going to put in a little bit of olive oil, followed by that pork. And you see, it is hot. And I'm going to fry this. All of those spices just hit my throat when I started talking. But what you see happening is that I'm going to fry this meat in a super fast amount of time. And at the same time, I'm going to build up a crust. As an example, you can see that this little piece of meat right here just hit that wall of the pan and instantly got the sear. Now, as this cook goes along, the fat's going to render down out of that pork, and basically it's going to create a pool of fat that's going to fry the meat. And after a minute or two, I'm getting that brown crust. That meat is fried up, the fat is rendered down, and it's ready to be served. Indeed. Look at that beautiful golden brown color. Now, of course, I created the plate with some flatbread, some fresh sliced white onion, then some really rich red tomatoes, a little bit of tzatziki, which for speed comes out of a jar. And then I'm gonna load this plate up with that authentic Greek gyros made in under 5 minutes. What a beauty of a plate. Of course, I'm gonna serve myself up. You could be home alone. You could have 20 kids over and just make a little bit of this. Of course, some of that tzatziki goes straight up in there. Let's get a bite out of that. You wanna try some more?
It's just so good.
And this stuff, it just like, wow, it takes your mouth.
This is amazing.
And he is an expert because you live above a fast food restaurant.
I know my fast food.
You gotta make this at home. Come on, 5 minutes of your time to get some of the best Greek authentic gyros.